my lifelong best friend exposed our private chat to my boss, getting me fired. So I went nuclear. I took her job, wrecked her relationship, and left her without a home. I never imagined my best friend Sophie would betray me. We had known each other since childhood, shared secrets, dreams, and even ended up working at the same company. We were the kind of friends who knew everything about each other, the good, the bad, and the ugly. For the past year, we had been competing for the same promotion. It was supposed to be a friendly rivalry, the kind where you push each other to do better and laugh about it over drinks afterward. Or so I thought. But when I got the promotion, the friendly competition turned sour. Instead of congratulating me, she leaked a private conversation to my boss, a conversation that was never meant to see the light of day. In that conversation, I had vented about our boss and joked about sleeping with the CEO to get ahead. It was a crude, tasteless joke, but it was meant to stay between us, two best friends having a private, tipsy venting session. I never thought she would use it against me, but she did, and it cost me everything. The day I got called into my boss's office, my heart was already pounding. I didn't know what to expect, but the stern look on his face said it all. He threw the printed out conversation on the desk and demanded an explanation. My words tumbled over each other as I tried to explain it was just a joke, a stupid comment made in confidence to a friend, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. I was fired on the spot, escorted out of the building like a criminal. The humiliation was unbearable. As I walked out of the building with my belongings in a box, I couldn't help but feel a whirlwind of emotions: shock, betrayal, anger. How could she do this to me? I replayed every interaction in my head, trying to pinpoint the moment our friendship turned into something toxic, but I couldn't find it. It was like she had been planning this all along, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. I thought that was the worst of it until I got home. My boyfriend was packing his things, his face a mixture of anger and hurt. My heart dropped. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice trembling. He showed me his phone, and there it was, another part of the conversation Sophie had leaked. This time where I had vented about his overbearing mother. I had called her controlling and said I was sick of her interfering in our lives. It was a private vent, something I thought would never go beyond the safety of my friendship with Sophie. But there it was, laid bare for him to see. He looked at me with disgust and said, "My mother comes first. If you can't respect that, then we're done." And just like that, he walked out of my life. I watched him leave, unable to move, unable to speak. It felt like a nightmare, one where you scream, but no sound comes out. I was left standing in the ruins of my life. My job, my boyfriend, my reputation, everything was gone. But Sophie wasn't done. She posted an edited version of our conversation on social media, twisting my words to make me look like the villain. My friends turned their backs on me. They believed the narrative she spun, and no matter how much I tried to explain, they wouldn't listen. I was alone, isolated, and devastated. The first few weeks were unbearable. I couldn't function. I barely ate, barely slept. I felt like I was walking around in a daze, disconnected from reality. Every morning I woke up hoping it had all been a bad dream. But reality hit me like a sledgehammer every time I opened my eyes. The woman I thought of as my sister had betrayed me in the most brutal way possible. But amidst the despair, a seed of something darker began to grow. Anger. It started as a whisper, a quiet voice in the back of my mind, but it grew louder with each passing day. Sophie had taken everything from me, and she did it without a second thought. If she wanted a war, she was going to get one, and I would make sure that she lost everything just as I had. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. Sophie was smart, cunning even. She knew how to cover her tracks, how to manipulate people to see things her way. But I knew her better than anyone else. I knew her weaknesses, her secrets, and I was going to use every single one of them against her. The first thing I targeted was her darkest secret, her affair with a married man named Drew. She had sworn me to secrecy about it, confiding in me like a sister. She knew it was wrong, but she was addicted to the thrill of it, to the power she felt knowing that she could have a piece of him whenever she wanted. I kept her secret out of respect for our friendship, despite my disapproval. But now there was no loyalty left. I went through old text messages, photos, anything that could prove the affair. I found more than enough. The more I dug into their affair, the more disgusted I became. Drew had been leading her on for years, promising he would leave his wife for her, but never following through. It was a toxic relationship, one built on lies and deceit, but she clung to it as if it was the only thing keeping her alive. I wondered how she could justify her actions in her mind. Did she really believe she was the victim here, or was she aware of her role in destroying another woman's marriage? I sent everything to Drew's wife anonymously. I expected a quiet confrontation, a private fallout, but what I got was an explosion. The wife didn't just confront Drew, she went public with it. She posted everything on social media, tagging Sophie and exposing her for the home wrecker she was. The scandal spread like wildfire. Our entire social circle saw it, and suddenly Sophie was the one being shunned. The same people who had turned their backs on me now turned on her. I watched from the sidelines as she was torn apart by the same public scrutiny she had subjected me to. Her life began to unravel before my eyes, but this was just the beginning. Next, I went after her career. Sophie worked in a high-profile position where reputation was everything, so I created a fake social media account in her name. It was disturbingly easy to do. I bought followers, posted some of her actual pictures to make it look legitimate, and then started planting the seeds of her downfall. I began posting subtly offensive comments, just enough to raise suspicion, but not outright crazy. It gained attention quickly. And as the fake accounts following grew, I ramped up the intensity of the posts. People began noticing, questioning her professionalism, her character. At the same time, I sent an anonymous tip to her HR department, pretending to be a concerned coworker. I attached screenshots of the fake account's posts, claiming she had been making inappropriate comments both online and in the office. Within days, Sophie was called in for a meeting. The rumors about her affair hadn't helped either, and by the end of the week, she was fired. I imagined her sitting in that office, her face flushed with humiliation, as she was told to pack her things and leave. It was a small taste of the destruction I felt when I lost my job. Now she knew what it was like. But that wasn't enough. I wanted to strip her of everything. Her love life was next. On top of Drew, Sophie had been dating a guy named Ryan for a while. He was her backup, the nice guy who would be there for her when Drew couldn't. Ryan was an introvert, rarely online, and he kept himself away from most of our social circle. He had no idea about the affair, at least not yet. I knew getting to him would be tricky, so I decided to target his insecurities. I found his email address and began sending him anonymous messages, each one hinting that Sophie wasn't who she pretended to be. I included screenshots of her conversations with Drew, the text messages where she promised herself to him once he left his wife. I also faked some messages showing her flirting with other men, making it look like she was playing him for a fool. Little by little, I chipped away at his trust in her. It took weeks, but eventually Ryan broke up with her. He couldn't handle the betrayal, real or perceived. Sophie was devastated, and I saw a post she made on Instagram, something vague about heartbreak and betrayal. It almost made me feel sorry for her, but then I remembered the look on my boyfriend's face as he left me, the whispered conversations among my former friends, and my resolve hardened. This was what she deserved. I should have stopped there. I should have felt satisfied with what I had done, but I didn't. I needed to take everything from her, just as she had taken everything from me. Her home was the final piece of the puzzle. Sophie lived in a nice apartment downtown, but she was barely scraping by. She had told me on more than one occasion that she was late on rent, living paycheck to paycheck. I used that information to my advantage. I sent an anonymous email to her landlord, suggesting that she was a high credit risk and might not be able to pay rent this month. I also spread rumors in her apartment complex about her affair, making it seem like she was a ticking time bomb, a drama queen who could cause trouble. The landlord, not wanting any drama, evicted her. With no job, no boyfriend, and now no home, Sophie was left with nothing. She couch hopped from friend to friend, but even they started to distance themselves from her. She had become toxic, radioactive, and no one wanted to be around her. I had done it. I had taken everything from her. But as I sat in my apartment, alone and staring at the blank screen of my TV, I didn't feel the triumph I thought I would. I felt empty. I watched her life fall apart, and all I could think was, what have I become? For weeks, I stalked her online, watching as she tried to piece her life back together. She looked tired, defeated. She wasn't the vibrant, confident woman I once knew. She was a shell of herself, and it made me sick to realize that I had done this to her. I had become the very thing I despised, a vengeful, spiteful person consumed by hate. One day, I saw her at a coffee shop. She was sitting alone, staring at her phone with a lost expression. I felt a pang of something, guilt, maybe pity. I didn't know. I just knew that in that moment I didn't feel like I had won. I felt like I had lost. I had lost a friend, a part of myself, and for what? To prove a point, to make her suffer. As I walked away, I realized that in my quest for revenge, I had become the monster. I had ruined her life, but I had ruined my own in the process. I was isolated, angry, bitter, and empty. I thought revenge would make me feel whole again, but it didn't. It was a poison that consumed me, leaving nothing but destruction in its wake. Now I sit here reflecting on everything that happened, and I can't help but wonder if it was all worth it. I wanted to make her pay, but in the end, I was the one who paid the price. I lost her. I lost myself. And all I have left is the haunting realization that sometimes the quest for revenge can destroy you more than the betrayal itself.